media and Momo platforms to target unsuspecting citizens with fake online investments, draining millions from the economy. For example, in the first half of 2026, the Cybersecurity Authority reported that victims lost over 3.4 million Ghana cedis to fraudulent activities and investment platforms. Economic crimes and corruption are estimated to cost Ghana approximately $3 billion annually. So, for the first half of 2026, the Cybersecurity Authority reported that victims lost over 3.4 million Ghana cedis to fraudulent investment platforms. Also, economic crimes and corruption are estimated to cost Ghana approximately $3 billion annually. So, this is a big problem. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Afternoon Business Review, where we tell you what moves money and markets. My name is Agyemang Prempeh and welcome aboard. This is how we start the show today. And let's start with the commodities markets. Let's check how far or how much crude oil, gold, and cocoa is being pegged on the international markets or international, market, I should say. So crude oil is selling at $74 per barrel. Gold is being pegged at 4,068 dollars per ounce, and cocoa is priced at $50,000 per metric tons. And on the FX market, that's the foreign exchange market, the interbank market, how much you need to spend when you are buying or selling a dollar. This is according to rates from the Bank of Ghana. The dollar is selling at 11 cedis 43 pesos and is buying at 11 cedis 45 pesos. The pound is trading at 15 cedis 28 pesos, whereas it's buying at 15 cedis 27 pesos, and the euro is going for 13 cedis 4 pesos and is buying at 13 cedis 5 pesos. Please note these rates could be slightly different at the various forex bureau and banks. And as always, as we say here on this show, don't go to the black market, neither should you go to Accra, Tudu, Circle, or airports. And Caitlin Dazi from Data Bank is on standby with stock updates.
The stock market continued on a positive note, closing with 5 gainers and 3 laggards. The top gainers were Intravenous Infusions, Standard Chartered Preference Shares, and Ecobank Ghana, while Cal Bank, ETI, and Republic Bank declined. Driven by the price moves, the Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index surged to a year-to-date return of 67.75%, while the Databank Stock Index declined to a year-to-date return of 87.03%. Casapreco and GCB Bank traded the most, accounting for 82% of the market turnover. For Databank Research, Caitlin Dazi.
And I am Agyemang Prempeh. It's now time for us to check out stories shaping the local and international economy. Let's start from the Ghana Revenue Authority, as they've uncovered transit fraud schemes involving forged trade documents, underdeclared cargo, and possible identity fraud. The discovery, according to the GRA, followed investigations into an intercepted consignment of cooking oil. Speaking at a media briefing yesterday, the Commissioner General Anthony Sapon said the shipment declared as transit cargo bound for Niger was never intended for that destination.
The investigations are concluded, and these are the key findings. We identify falsified trade documentation and the misdescription of the destination. The export documents that we obtained, because these were goods being moved from Togo to Ghana to Niger from the original instance. So the export documents we obtained from the Togolese customs show the cargo or the consignment originated from Malaysia and Indonesia and was discharged at the port of Lomé and was consigned to 2 Ivorian companies for delivery to Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, and not Niger, as was declared at the Ghana side.
So you heard the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, Anthony Kwesi Sapon. On the international front, a major outage at Australia's largest telecommunications company has led to cancelled train services, left thousands of customers without mobile coverage, and sparked an investigation into emergency calls that were not connected. Telstra's chief financial officer Michael Ackland apologized for the issue, which began at 4:30 local time on Wednesday and affected some mobile calls and data services. Services were fully restored about 12 hours later, he said. A software defect related to timekeeping service at data centers in Sydney and Melbourne was to blame, not a cyber attack. That's according to Auckland when he spoke to reporters. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said the outage was deeply concerning. Telstra described the outage as intermittent but acknowledged the impact had been national. So those are stories shaping the local and international economy. So time check in the studios is 40 minutes past the hour 12, and you're still listening to the afternoon business review here on Class 91.3 FM with me, Agyemang Prempeh. It's now time for us to move straight into a big conversation for today. And for our big conversation, we want to know, have you been defrauded in the financial system before? Say illegal deductions from your accounts, ATM deductions, POS deductions, etc. Then pay attention to today's big conversation on the afternoon business review here on Class 91.3 FM, because the Bank of Ghana has released a new report on fraud activities within the banking space. The CEO of the Ghana Bankers Association, John Ewuo, has been educating us on what to do to avoid falling victim to fraud. He spoke at a media engagement on the bank's SDI's PSP's 2025 fraud report organized by the central bank. Listen.
Incident materializes or crystallizes. Complaint, obviously, the customer will make a formal complaint to the bank. And the bank would then trigger an internal investigation and review. In a lot of the instances, or almost all the instances, the customer will be called where further information is needed from the customer. What we see, or we've seen in the past, around most of the frauds that have happened and where customers have lost money. Upon investigation, you are looking at where and who, should have done something or should have prevented something and did not do, or should have also taken some personal precaution and did not do. So we are looking at who is accountable, who is at risk, or who potentially dropped the ball before the fraud to crystallize. What we see, and that is why we are going through this massive campaign. In the specific case that you mentioned, we got involved, and when you go into the occurrence and the actual incident, and you find that clearly there was no way the bank could have been the one at fault. Customer gave express instruction to a staff of the bank, express, this happens, do it. And they kept exchanging emails. And if the customer does not dispute that they sent the email. So in instances such as that, if you find it very difficult for a bank to take responsibility for the negligence of the customer, and that is why we are educating the customer, the things you should and should not do. There's another fraud incident that personally I came into contact with, where a customer had signed the entire checkbook, the entire book, signed and left with the staff of a bank. You never sign a check. Once you sign a checkbook, you have signed your bank account away. And they signed, and in a lot. So the customer, when a customer picks up phone and calls the staff, somebody is coming, give 10,000 to this person. he writes 10,000 cedis. It's signed. The mandate is there. And once he writes 10,000 to the person, he writes 10,000 to himself. You understand? So it becomes difficult. We need, because the banking relationship becomes, over time, it becomes so informal and personal. Bank staff are attending funerals of bank customers, they are attending weddings. It becomes more or less like somebody account. But we are saying when it comes to your bank account, even the person sitting at your dinner table cannot be trusted. Because some of the fraud you find is a spouse who has perpetrated the fraud on the other spouse, or a son or a daughter who has perpetrated it on the parents. So when it comes to money, even the people sitting around your dinner table, you can't entrust your credentials, freely, unless you really want to do it. Like you want to give your credit card or debit card to your child. That one is out of your own free will. We do not encourage that. If you want your child is of age, we encourage that you set up an account for the child, and that account will have a debit card where the child becomes financially responsible for that account. But we are seeing parents sharing credentials with their family members. You have a PIN, and your password, your PIN code to your ATM card is written in your diary. Some of them is pasted on the fridge, and you've seen it. So there are a lot of instances where lack of personal financial precautions, we become so fluid that we take, the bits and pieces for granted. And when it comes to fraud, nobody is immune. I have been defrauded before. And I'm heading to 30 years within the banking industry, and I've been defrauded. And unfortunately, the day I told my colleagues here, the day I got defrauded was the day I had gone to Joy FM to educate on. Actually, I did not even get home. On my way from the studio, I got defrauded 67 Ghana cedis. Okay, the central bank 5,000 Ghana cedis. Wow. So we need to be conscious when we are dealing with financial products. When we pick our phone, we need to be conscious that what we are doing has financial implications, can potentially be a debit on your account. And trust no one. Trust no one. If you have to share, it is better to rather open an account or get the person separate financial line so that you don't commingle. I mean, of course, we have spouses and families who share accounts. That is a different case. And even in that, if you go to the court, you find that a lot of the problems are coming from one borrowing more than the other and not disclosing. So it is extremely important that you keep it personal. Your bank account credentials are personal to you. That's what the PIN is called, personal identification number. It's personal to you. And that is why, to your question, we investigate and we try to find culpability. And there are instances that banks have refunded customers where the banks have been found to have been negligent or not taking some level of minimum controls to protect the customer. And there are recourse mechanisms. If you deal with the bank and you believe that the outcome is not to your expectation and you think you have a strong case, you can come to the central bank and bring your case to the Financial Stability Department. They will go through similar investigation, and if you still are not convinced, you can go to the court for the court to adjudicate. So there are stages of complaints, and it's all within the customer recourse mechanism that the central bank has rolled out. And we encourage everyone to go through them to familiarize ourselves with the requirements of what we can do when we are defrauded. On the MPs, they are part of the general public. So we encourage that, nobody is immune. Sometimes as an MP, we think we are financially savvy. Professors have been defrauded. So you cannot not take it serious. So perhaps what we can do is to re-emphasize that they should also pay attention to the campaign that is ongoing. It's everywhere. And if they invite us, or perhaps we can invite ourselves by also going there to have a special session with them, to take them through some of the pitfalls where we have found some so-called intelligent people being defrauded. When it comes to financial fraud, nobody is off the hook. The last one is on staff involvement. It is one pain point that worries us as banks because we are believed the society sees us as angels. Unfortunately, we are Ghanaians. And generally, and I say this, the people who work within the banking system were not dropped from heaven into the banking system. It's the same people who are within the journalism space. It's the same people who are in the manufacturing space, working in the pharmaceutical industry. So it's not like because you are working in the bank, you become a saint. And that's why controls are there. And we go through a lot of stages to at least validate their background to be certain that they don't carry some baggage. And that when they come in, we educate them about the implications of getting yourself involved. You saw in the report over 165 people who have been sacked in 1 year by the banking industry. We don't tell our stories. And that is where we are going to emphasize, letting people know that it's not like banking staff are stealing and going scot-free. We are sacking them. There are staff of banks who are in jail as we speak. But we don't go out there. Because the more banks go out and say we have jailed, it's like your systems are weak, people are defrauding your bank. That's why as an association we are taking the charge. We are not a bank. And that we can do the voicing on behalf of the of our member banks. So the staff involvement is a worry. So in the campaign that we are running, there is a component that is targeted at staff. And there was a report that you shared about the program we are running with the staff, which has been hosted on the learning management system of the Chartered Institute of Bankers. Every staff member of all our member banks are going to go through a program. It's seven modules, and every staff member go through all 7, take exams, and get certification. And it's going to be an annual affair, so that you cannot say you did not know. And it's shameful sometimes when the report comes and you find your own people as facilitators of the fraud. We don't really, it becomes, the very sore point for us, and that we are not treating with kids' gloves at all. So I think it's a communal problem. My wife runs a pharmaceutical business, and then it's her number 1, number 2, number 3 problems are stealing from the people we call MCA. If there is an industry where thievery is the order of the day, is in the pharmaceutical industry, but nobody publishes it. You understand? So it is everywhere. Even within your phone, media houses, the marketing people, they go and take people's money ostensibly to advertise, and then they disappear. It's everywhere. As a community of Ghana, we need to work on our moral standards and see how we can refine, our way of life, so that when a bank recruits, we can have a certain level of confidence that we are getting the right people to work and take care of our customers. But that said, we are also taking our own actions to resolve that. And thank you very much.
So you heard the CEO of the Ghana Bankers Association, John Ewa, there in a media engagement with journalists at the Bank of Ghana office, educating them on the need to be aware and on the need to not fall victim to fraud. Let me run you through some of the things he mentioned. He mentioned that customers actually sign checks and give it out to people to take it to the bank, and also customers or some people who work with various financial institutions often leave their bank details anywhere. They don't care where they are living, they don't care who they are giving their details to. So lack of protection, proper protection, as to safeguarding your bank details. And this this whole conversation emanates from a report from the Bank of Ghana, which that is the Fraud Report 2025. So the central bank has released its financial sector fraud reports for the 2025 fiscal year. Let me run you through some of the pointers from the report. So in the report, the Bank of Ghana says Ghana's financial sector fraud case rises to 48% or rose to 48% in 2025, which was driven largely by digital scams. So, according to the Bank of Ghana's 2025 fraud report, fraud across Ghana's financial sector rose sharply in 2025, driven largely by a surge in electronic fraud within the payment service provider sector. The report reviewed that total reported fraud cases across banks, specialized deposit taking institutions, that's the SDIs, and the PSPs, that's the payment service providers, increased by 48%, rising from 16,733 in 2024 to 24,778 in 2025. It says the total value at risk also edged up to 101 million Ghana cedis from 99 million Ghana cedis recorded the previous year. The central bank attributed the rise in fraud cases almost entirely to the payment service provider sector, noting that fraud has increasingly migrated to digital payments platforms in line with a rapid growth in electronic transactions and relatively lower levels of digital literacy. So there are other aspects of the reports that the central bank also did mention that staff involved in fraud related activities drops to 40%, but 34% of staff who were involved in this illegal exercise were dismissed. So in the report, the Bank of Ghana says employee involvement in fraud across the banking sector declined significantly in 2025, but only about one-third of staff implicated the fraudulent activities were dismissed by their institutions. So according to the Central Bank's 2025 fraud report, the number of employees involved in fraud across banks and specialized deposits, as I said, represented 40% decline. It says of the 219 staff implicated in fraud, 139 cases representing 63% were linked to cash theft and cash suppression, down from 75% recorded the previous year. So some other pointers to total fraud cases, according to the bank, rose from 15,164 in 2022 to 24,778 in 2025. So from 2022 to 2025, it moved from 15,000 to over 15,000 to over 24,000. So that's actually a worrying situation. So the call coming in from the Bank of Ghana, the call coming in from the CEO of the Ghana Bankers Association, Johnny Wah, is cautioning everyone to be vigilant. Let's stay safe, let's stay cautious, let's be careful who we give our bank details to, who we give Momo details to, and who we entrust money, investment, and all that. And also, particularly on social media, that's where these scammers or these fraudsters do work, particularly PayPal, Meta, TikTok, these social media platforms as the avenue for fraudsters to operate. So let's stay safe, let's abide by all the rules and regulations stated out by the Cybersecurity Authority to guard our investment and our money. So that's how we wrap up today's edition of the Afternoon Business Review here on Class 91.3 FM with me, Agyemang Prempeh. It's always a delight to come your way every day with the show. Catch us same time tomorrow, 12:30 to 1, same channel, same voice, maybe, or Nanoye Ankra will be taking the seats. And as usual, you don't need a dictionary to understand business news. Log on to classfmonline.com for more. My name is Agyemang Prempeh again. Good afternoon.